HomeShow Garden Pros, helping to turn your thumb green.
Hello, welcome to HomeShow Garden Pros. Glad you're here. So HomeShow Garden Pros, it's a kind of community network. We're always dishing out a bunch of great gardening information, trying to put in front of you experts that can help you out with whatever you're trying to grow. So gardening to us is anything to do with plants, be it indoor, succulents, your lawn outside, your trees, your veggies, your azaleas. I know some of you guys are growing azaleas. But anyway, that's what we do. And we do that by bringing in a bunch of great experts. So we have an incredible radio show every single Saturday on Sports Radio 610. The show is in the morning, 7 to 9. And we have a kind of a round table of hosts. I get to be one of them. And those hosts include incredible experts from different destination garden centers all over the Houston area. So, you know, we start in kind of the Northeast. You got Kingwood Garden Center and Warren Southern Gardens up there, just incredible places in Kingwood. You go up 45 north, you get to Nature's Way Resources Garden Center. They have a beautiful native selection, bunch of great food plants up there. Really worth a trip. Kind of keep going. Got plants for all seasons. Awesome spot right there on 249, just past Louetta, going north. It's on the feeder road, so it is easy to get in and out. Such a cool spot. In Katy, really Katy's go-to place for plants, and really one of the nation's top spot for water gardening is Nelson Nursery and Water Gardening out there in Katy. Always doing great and always getting better and better every single year. Such a cool spot. And it really is like there's water flowing, there's fish to feed. It's so cool. And then down southwest of town, bookending Richmond, Texas, you have the Enchanted Group, Enchanted Gardens, and Enchanted Forest. Two beautiful spots, great trees, great signs, great plants. Check those guys out. Really, really cool stuff. And then on the video version of the show, here are our talk show, gardening talk show. Hi, gardening talk show, folks. We like to bring in nonprofits and garden clubs, bring in some of their experts to help you with your gardening stuff. Kind of highlights how many people are gardening and how great it is to get into this thing because it really is helpful. A lot of times we lean on the horticulture side, and today we're going to lean on the agriculture side, and we have from one of my favorite nonprofits, Plant It Forward, which they do farming in Houston. We have Rachel is here. And Rachel, I totally forgot your last name. Oh my gosh, hold on. It's Folkerts. Rachel Folkerts is here. She's the farm program manager. Rachel, tell the people all about Plant It Forward Farms.
Well, thanks so much for having us on. Plant It Forward is a network of urban farms. We work with 8 farms that are located on 4 farm sites throughout urban Houston. And all the farmers who we work with are new Americans who arrived as refugees, primarily from African countries. And Plant It Forward works with these farmers to provide training on how to grow for Houston markets. All of our farmers have experience farming in their home country, but need a little bit of training on how to grow what Houstonians want to buy. And we also connect them with markets through a weekly CSA program and farmers markets. And last but not least, we help connect them to farmable land. So that's Plant It Forward in a nutshell.
That's incredible. That is incredible stuff. And so what we're talking about is not just fresh, impeccably grown produce that's grown right in the Houston area, but it's also kind of aiding these farmers that are coming over from places and maybe don't really have a direction. Well, they get to start farming. And I met one of y'all's graduates, and he was working at Cultivare. He was kind of doing some sous chef stuff, but also managing their little garden. And I thought that was so cool that here was a graduate.
Was that Guy?
What's that?
Was that Guy?
Yeah, Guy. Yeah. He was great. And I know a lot of y'all's graduates also return as consultants for urban farming projects. So y'all, again, this is one of my favorite nonprofits and just doing a great job in Houston. And a big reason that this is such like a appropriate week to have you on is it is something special about this week. So what do you guys got going on this week?
There is. Thanks for that intro. So this week is World Refugee Week. So Sunday is World Refugee Day, and that is a celebration of the contributions of refugees to communities worldwide. And in Houston, there is a great lineup of events throughout the week And
Mm.
if you visit World Refugee Day Houston, I believe .org, you can see that. But we're hosting two events. One is happening tonight, maybe of particular interest to this audience. So we will be hosting the author of a book called The New American Farmer: Immigration, Race, and the Struggle for Sustainability. And she is going to be talking about all of those topics, right? How new Americans interact with and are really, in a lot of ways, leading the reintroduction of sustainable practices into US farming.
Mm.
So that's virtual. It's happening tonight at 6 p.m. And if you visit our website, plantitforward.farm, you'll be able to pretty easily find the events and sign up there.
I mean, that sounds like a phenomenal book, actually. It reminds me of some of Wendell Berry's stuff when he's talking about justice and farming
Mhm.
and our connection with the land. But just to be reminded that the American way of farming, of poisoning our soils left and right, is not the only way, and that lots of people worldwide have great solutions to that. I know there's a cool event near my neighborhood tomorrow night, also.
There is tomorrow night. We are hosting a bunch of great refugee serving organizations at our Westbury farm, which is located off of Highway 90 at Hillcroft. And those organizations are going to come out to the farm, set up booths, have great information about not only what they do, but how you can get involved. And we'll have light bites and cocktails and a farm tour just for fun.
That is awesome, and that site also has some shade, so that's nice too. These hot summer months, as we
There,
get out there.
yes,
That's a
it'll be toasty, but we'll have cool drinks and a little bit of shade.
And last time I saw you, I mentioned how lovely that farm space is, and that really is just a you get out there and you're kind of wowed by all of these cool plants going, and then you're wowed again by the incredible work that's going on to provide this amazing food. So y'all are at the Feel Good groups markets. You're at urban harvest markets. Anywhere else where people can buy the produce that these incredible farmers are growing?
We're at Memorial Villages, the Energy Corridor Farmers Market,
Mm.
um, Bryce Village, Heights Mercantile, um, and there is also a farm stand at our farm in Montrose, which is right by the Rothko on Saturdays.
Okay, awesome. That's part of the college campus that's there. Well, it's
Mm-hmm.
funny. St. Thomas. It's right by there by
St.
St.
Thomas.
Thomas. Yeah, and then also people can sign up for shares, right? And that's a really cool thing
Exactly.
that's on your website, which again, plantitforward.farm, maybe the coolest website that I've ever heard of. I mean, Mark, I don't know about you, but that's like super cool website. Yeah, and so that's a great place to learn where these locations are and to sign up for a box of produce, which turns out is not just produce.
Not
Right,
just produce.
right. I was there, and you guys were packing like really cool locally made um,
Oh,
goods
right, right.
too. That was yesterday, everybody, that I saw this happening. So I'm not like making too much up.
I've already forgot. Yeah, we also have a covered share, so a share of dried pantry goods once a month.
Which is so cool. I just love that. So doing great stuff. Plant it forward, and this is the farm program manager, and it knows about the agricultural stuff. So we're gonna get in some questions. Rachel, you ready to answer some questions?
I'm ready.
Now, Rachel called these questions softball questions. So, we'll see. We'll see how good they are. I was not trying to feed her easy ones, but we'll see. You can be the judge. Here's question number one. All right, this one's from Sean, and this one's great. So, what are some international/unknown vegetables that grow great in Houston, especially in the brutal summer? So, it's funny that you call it a softball question because I've been saving this question for you from a couple of different hosts that's come through because I know you get to see a lot of cool, unique vegetables working with these international farmers.
Yeah. Um, so some of the things that come to mind are a variety of hibiscus called roselle,
Mm,
and so of course the pod of the hibiscus in the fall that will turn red, harden, the seeds are inside, and that is what you would make hibiscus tea from. But the leaves of the hibiscus plant are also edible and
Oh,
are beloved in lots of African cuisine. They're really tangy, pretty similar to sorrel.
hmm. Wow.
Um, so that is definitely one that I recommend.
Am I
And of course, the
wrong
hibiscus
in
is
this?
beautiful.
Have I eaten roselle fruit too? Like, is there a gelatinous sort of presence to this that's pre-ripening, or am I
Hmm.
thinking of something else altogether?
Not the fruit. I mean, the leaves of the pod, like, um, you can make a compote out of them, like, so that could become gelatinous.
Maybe that's
But
it.
there's not really a fruit.
Yeah, so it has these little like pods that grow. They really look really cool, and the flowers are gorgeous on it. That's a great one. That's a really cool one. It's not only good in the
Mhm.
veggie bed, but also maybe in the landscape. That's a great idea.
Exactly. And then there are lots of other greens that really thrive. I think
Mm,
the most beloved internationally that we have here might be Molokia, which is also jute leaves,
mm.
bush okra, Egyptian spinach. It goes by all those names. There's a really beautiful corner of YouTube with um, Middle Eastern teenagers arguing over whose mom makes the best Molokia soup. Um, I, I recommend that little corner of the internet.
That's so cool.
Um, it's definitely, I think, for a US born palate, an adjustment. It is slimy, which isn't a texture that we tend to cook with, but um, it grows super, super well
Mm.
and is beloved by a lot of cultures. Um, let's see, we also, Malabar spinach grows super well. It's a vine, it's practically a weed, so plant with caution. If once you get it going, it'll never go away. Um,
Hey,
that one's also slimy.
those berries that grow in the Malabar. I mean, I've seen
Mm.
birds eat them and then spread them around my garden. But are those berries? Do they have any specific tasty flavor, or is it just like more of the same sort of greeny,
They're not
starchy?
super tasty. I've eaten them. I can't remember what they look like
Yeah.
or taste like, but
And if a
they
berry
must not be
doesn't stand
super.
out, if a berry doesn't stand out
Yeah.
in our palate, like, that's one of the most robust sort of food groups there is. Well, that's awesome. Do you guys sell any of these in your kind of farm boxes, your produce boxes that people get?
We do. Yeah, those will be definitely featured in the deep summer farm
Mm.
boxes. So we'll take a break in August, but in July and September, even into October, all of those greens will be available. And you can find them at the farmers market.
Yeah, that's so great. So great chance to try them. And
Mhm.
lastly, on this front, do you guys ever sell any of the actual vegetables themselves, like where I can take it home and try it out in my garden?
We do not at this point sell plants. We kind of eat up every plant that we can
Yeah,
get our hands on the
that's awesome.
farms.
Well, I was hoping that my kids could get involved in the whose dad makes the best Egyptian spinach soup. But it's fine. It's fine. Another time, another produce. Yeah. Well, that is awesome. Great answer there. And I'm sure you got a few other ones, but people will just have to go to Plant It Forward Farms to get the answer for those other ones. So you can always
Very cool.
ask a question in our comments section. It's right there, however you're watching this, be it YouTube or Facebook or however you're watching it. So we're going to go on to question number 2 here. All right, question number 2. This is from Teddy. Teddy says, my Italian cypress tree has not recovered from the freeze. Uh-oh, it's got brown parts, and I'm afraid if I remove them, my tree will be uglier. I mean, yeah, will be ugly. Well, uglier is, what he wrote. What should Teddy do? Rachel, what should Teddy do here?
I definitely think you should go ahead and prune it. I am usually in favor of cutting away the dead. Um, there
Good
there
general
doesn't
rule.
tend to be a good reason to keep the dead bits. around, except maybe in the immediate aftermath of a freeze or another event that causes
Hmm.
this damage. But it might be ugly in the short term, but in the long term, you're going to let your plant recover. And we were chatting about this beforehand, and you also pointed out that you'll save yourself some pest headaches.
Absolutely.
So,
As we all know, Italian cypress love serving as a host plant for spider mites. And so if you leave those dead leaves on there, you pretty much add a lot more habitat for those pest bugs that are damaging your tree. So one thing you can do is you can go to Arbico Organics. They sell a predatory mite, and you release that in the soil and let it go up the tree. Also, something good to do on a regular basis with Italian cypress only is hose it down about once a month to remove any dust traps or dust habitats for those spider mites. So, yes, Rachel, I agree with Rachel. Just cut off those limbs. Your tree will be bad for a while, but it's going to be the only thing to do to get it to grow back. So, great answer, Rachel.
I passed the test.
You passed the non-food related plant test. So we're going to go back to food. Here we go. Question number 3. All right, this is from Angela. Angela, the way Angela's asking it, she's pretty forward here. She's pretty assertive. She's like, she knows what she wants, you know. So all right, Angela's question: I want to grow fruit trees. What are your favorites? And please describe them. I love fruit trees, and so what are my favorites is going to take a while. So maybe let's pick 3 each. No, let's pick 2 each, and we'll take turns. So we try to have like a fruit tree fun fact festival.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're going to go first.
All right. Well, I'm going to just take this from the farm angle.
Ooh.
I love fig trees, and I love them because they're basically only available fresh. You can't transport them very well. They So you kind of have to eat them right off the tree. They are and they do really well in the deep summer. So you get fruit with lots of varieties starting even as early as July, definitely in August and September. And that's an awesome time to have fruit because it's otherwise not very pleasant outside. So it kind of gives you a little reason to get into the garden. So yeah, I think you can't go wrong with a fig tree, and they produce really quickly,
Right.
within a year.
And they can kind of take to some shaping too. In kind of landscape design, a big element are specimen trees, trees that have something very interesting about them. And the fig's leaves alone are so interesting and so neat that if you highlight it the right way, you've got something that's really great in the landscape. That's a great one. That is a really cool one. I'm going to go with a very tall tree, and that's Pakistani mulberry. They make a lot of non-stemming mulberries that are about the size of my pinky, so about 3 inches long, maybe 3 or 3/4 of inches wide. Lots of fruit, and they're very tasty. They'll shower down these mulberries a couple times. So if you have a hammock you don't like, just put it down under there, and you'll get like a whole grocery sack full of these delicious fruits. Also, they get probably like 40 to 60 feet tall, very tall trees. And so you've got a shade tree that's dropping a lot of really wonderful fruit. And these fruit are great because you can ride the lawnmower over them, no big deal. But they're very tasty, they're abundant, and you're a really tall shade tree. So Pakistani mulberry is what I'm going to go with for a really cool, one of my favorite fruit trees.
Then my next one will be the persimmon, particularly the fuyu types, which are non-astringent. So we have sweet persimmon and then the astringent persimmons that kind of make your mouth pucker. Usually people don't prefer those as much. So fuyu type will be nice and sweet. And I like them for a lot of the same reasons that I like figs. Again, they're best enjoyed fresh. You can't find them very well in at the grocery store or in other markets because they do bruise very easily, and they are fast to produce. So all of those boxes that we like to check off on the farm, the persimmon has it all.
Absolutely. And you will not find a sweeter from nature produce that you can grow in Houston. They're so sweet. They're so tasty. One thing about persimmon, if you want to plant one, don't put it by a wood fence. So your fences, you may not know this in your neighborhood, but your fences are squirrels and rat highways. That's just what they are. Sorry, no offense. But persimmons, they are favorites of those two rodents. And so if you do get one, pull it away from your wood fence. Don't have it right by there, or you'll get slightly less of that delicious produce. But yeah, that's a great one. Delicious. And what's cool about it is nobody knows what it is. So they show up at your house and they're like, "What is that?" And you're like, "These are persimmons." And when you spell it, it sounds like it's a conversation, like "F you, why you?" So that's a fun way to do that too. Sorry, usually this is a show that's good for kids, but wow, we really went off the rails there. All right, my next one, and this one's going to be a tiny one. It's kind of a rule breaker because it's not really a tree, but you can grow goji berries. So this is a Himalayan shrub, really mounds up on itself and has to have drainage. So in a well-draining pot, in a bed that's maybe 2-3 feet tall, and they can handle some shade, but also a lot of sun. But that big thing is they have to have drainage. And so those of you that are buying goji berries by the pound, what is it, 15, 20 bucks a pound, you can grow those, get a couple of quarts yourself. And it's really a charming landscape plant because it does to love cascade down things. So that's not really a tree. So, sorry to Angela for not really being very specific about trees only. I'm sure she's mad. But those are our fruit tree, favorite fruit tree fact festival. So great job there. Way to go. All right, we're going to go on to the next question. I'm checking our comments. No questions there. Okay, great. Here's Julia's question. Julia asks, this is a really great one for you too. Do I have to have raised beds? Is it possible, beneficial, to grow in the ground? She's from Ohio, and the soil is different here than in Ohio. I finished her sentence for her, but that's Julia's question. What's your take on raised beds or not?
Yeah, so I have like a little bit of a complicated answer. You never have to do anything.
Yes.
Any grower is going to tell you, a different way of doing things. There are many ways to grow. So the key here in Houston is to be able to deal with drainage. We tend to have heavy clay soils, although, your particular space might not have a clay soil if there's been, previous work done. But we do tend to have these, pretty rough, heavy clay soils and terrible drainage. A lot of rain, and then that clay is gonna just hold on to water. So if you do want to grow in the ground, you probably are going to have to do a good bit of work to amend your soil. And I would say that while maybe you don't have to build a boarded raised bed that you fill in with purchased soil, you probably are going to want your space to be somewhat elevated. On the farms, we're not boarding all of our beds off, but we do dig furrows in between the rows so that the bed is effectively raised. And you want that because you certainly don't want your vegetables to sit in wet, waterlogged soils. At your home garden, you certainly could choose to grow things in ground that can stand a little bit of saturation. So, the answer is a little complicated. Depends how much work do you want to do, how much time do you want to put in. If you, yeah, there's no easy answer. I wish she was here to.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could talk to her directly. I will say, people from the Midwest, a lot of times, when they say in ground, they just mean dig a hole and put it in there. And so Julia, I'm going to say to Julia, go ahead and make some raised beds. Go ahead and add, 6 inches of good compost above that clay. Eventually, it'll change the clay to a plantable area. But for now, just go ahead and do a raised bed. Everything that Rachel's saying is absolutely correct. There are ways to do it in ground, but even then it involves kind of bringing in some supplements and training the soil, if you will. And I'll tell you this right now, carrots do not grow in our soil. So other things like potatoes, really don't make it very well in our soil. Anything that grows kind of in under the ground in the clay can really become, especially if there's any sort of dry period, can get like
Mhm.
crushed basically. So keep that in mind. Arugula, okra, eggplant, these things can do really well in the clay with no amendment or with very few amendments. And so, but I think probably the arugula okra crowd is pretty small on people who just want those two vegetables only. So, I'm with Rachel. Be flexible. Know that this stuff is all fluid, but also knowing how people from Ohio think and what their soil was like up there, your best bet is to do a raised bed, especially if you're kind of starting a bed at a place where there hasn't been one yet. So we
Yeah,
love.
I grew up in Iowa, and
Okay.
so I
Yes. Yes.
you can't just throw seeds around here and expect
Yeah. Bounty.
growth. It's going to take a little more effort,
Yeah.
but they'll come.
Yeah. There's a reason Johnny Appleseed didn't swing through here, just putting apple seeds in the ground, being all cheery for his apple cider later on, is because the seeds wouldn't have done anything. They'd have been like, sorry. Well, Perry, who's one of our excellent kind of regular watchers here. So that's Perry's got a comment here. So Perry says, Entergy, the electric provider in my area, had a program where they sent you a tree to plant in a certain area. And hold on real quick, Perry. Phone went, okay. Certain area near your home to provide shade and reduce electricity usage once mature. They sent me a swamp water oak to plant between my house and the neighbors. There's 20 feet between the homes. Have you heard of this tree, and how do its roots spread? So, you got any thoughts on that one, Rachel?
I would have to look up the swamp water oak. I'm here for
So,
the vegetables.
swamp water oak is kind of mixing two different types of oak trees. There's swamp chestnut oaks, which are beautiful residential trees, and their roots really aren't going to mess up any foundation. And then there's a water oak, which is kind of an amalgam of a bunch of different Franken trees, Franken oaks, if you will. And some of those can really be dangerous. If they send a swamp chestnut, Perry, congratulations, that is an awesome tree. One way you know is it's in a group called the sawtooth oaks, and it has like a bigger football-shaped leaf with like ridges on the side. So Perry, if that's what that one looks like, that's great. The water oak has more of a lobed leaf, kind of like you see on Herman Park's logo. And so that's something to think about. I wouldn't put the water oak in that setting, but I would definitely consider the swamp chestnut oak. Now, it's a beautiful, slow growing oak, so I would actually just take it and plant it in my front landscape where you want something really cool. So, hope that helps, Perry. I know Perry will generally kind of come in with a follow up there, but that's pretty cool that they're doing that. I do feel bad because we cut down a large tallow tree that shaded my neighbor's house, but it was on my property. So now it's a axe throwing stump where I can practice my axe throwing, just in case. You don't know. You never know. System may
Equally
fail.
valuable to the neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah. And I leave the tallow branches coming up because I have a lot of conservation friends. And if they come over and they're like, you cut down this big tree? And I'm like, it's tallow. They're like, okay, cool. So anyway, okay. You mentioned veggies, growing veggies. Anything that you really want us to know about growing veggies or what you guys are doing before we switch to lawns?
Well, vegetables actually grow super well in Houston. I know we were kind of just throwing shade at how unfertile we are here versus the Midwest, but we also don't have winter, which is awesome. So it's a really good place to grow. There's really good farmers in our area and a growing community of urban farmers. And if you haven't already, I definitely would encourage everyone to go visit an urban farm. Certainly plant it forward, but also Finca Trace Robles. And and join us tonight virtually for our book talk about the New American Farmer.
Absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit more about the programs this week. I know what you're wondering out there, viewing universe, is that, wait, you went a whole episode without talking about lawns? The good news is the good folks at Enchanted Gardens are going to talk about lawns for us. And one of the lawn threats that we're seeing right now all over Houston, sod webworm. And so we had a bad year last year, so we got a lot of content on that front. So we're going to go that. All right, here's the good folks from Enchanted. Sod webworms can be a major problem this time of year. Rebecca from Enchanted Forest is here to kind of give us some tips on taking care of them. Rebecca, what'd you bring to show me how to take care of sod webworms?
Well, first of all, I've got 2 products here, Ladybug John's Recipe
Ooh.
and Humates Plus by Microlife. They improve your soil structure, increase your beneficial microorganisms, and help prevent any damage by sod webworms.
Well, that's awesome. And I know that like improving your soil improves the plant health, and that really builds resiliency.
Yes.
So I know that sod webworm, you know, if you see webs in your lawn, that means that you've got them probably.
Right.
A lot of times you see little moths too. And so Monterey is a great, BT is a great way to get rid of caterpillars.
That's right. It is a caterpillar killer.
Ooh.
And it's all organic, it's natural. They have to ingest it, so you'll spray it in the evening, right before feeding time. And then also diatomaceous earth is an excellent one. It'll cut up the bodies of small insects, microorganisms, parasites, whatever, including sod webworm.
And then how do I put this out? I just kind of spread it out of my bad area?
Yeah, again, you have to have dry conditions. Spread it out. If it rains or whatever, you'll have to reapply it, but dry conditions.
Awesome. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
So that's sod webworms. You really want to be aware of seeing the signs of them. For more, visit HomeShowGardenPros.com. And we do have 4 or 5 videos on sod webworms alone on our website, HomeShowGardenPros.com. There's a ton of big video library though. So all kinds of veggie stuff, all kinds of lawn stuff, any information you want is there in that video library. And we're keeping them short for you. We know your attention spans aren't that long, so that's why we do that. So I have with me Rachel. She's the farm director for Plant It Forward Farms. And she's been dishing out great information on like vegetables, growing farms, some awesome fruit trees for the Houston area. But we're also trying to lift up because it's World Refugee Week, and Houston is a known hub, and we receive a ton of refugees every year, and they are a very kind of at-risk community. And so that's where Plant It Forward comes in, is that it kind of locates and trains refugees to farm. Now, a lot of these folks are already farmers in their home country, but acclimate them to our soil, to our plant selection, and then you guys do provide boxes for people just to buy, both subscription and kind of show up and buy at a farm stand. And so it being World Refugee Week, you guys have a couple of cool events. And just the 2, or are there a couple more?
We're hosting 2 events.
That's awesome.
A book talk tonight with the author of The New American Farmer about immigration, race, and sustainability in U.S. agriculture. And tomorrow, an open farm at Plant It Forward Westbury, where other refugee-serving organizations will come out and provide a little bit of information about how you can get involved. We'll also have cocktails and light bites. And World Refugee Day Houston is hosting a few other virtual informational events, and you can check those out on their website. It's World Refugee Day Houston.
That is so cool. So their website's that. Y'all's is plantitforward.farm. A really cool website, and that's where you go to buy your package of produce that you can get on the regular basis. And you know, I'm sure you guys give some tips on how to cook everything too.
We do. We have on our website a veggie guide, and it will have photo IDs of many of our crops and recipe ideas. And you can always, as a member, join our Facebook group and ask other members, hey, what do you cook with this? What are you guys eating now?
That's awesome. I love that idea. That's great, because part of gardening is not just growing the food, it's cooking it. And so that's one cool service that's just being provided kind of all of the time. So, okay, so folks, your book tonight for this New American Farmer book, which I just ordered actually. And then also tomorrow night, there's going to visit the Westbury Farms at Westbury Community Garden. Beautiful space down there, and there is shade, and it sounds like there'll be some light bites. And then on Monday, OBA, a totally different organization that I'm a part of, and you guys know about it, you know, we're friends. We have Jeff Lowenfeld's come in, and the event is inside at a brewery, and your ticket does come with 1 beer from True Anomaly Brewing, but he's going to be coming in and talking about some of the cutting edge data related to roots and the little hairs you see on plants, some cool stuff that we're learning there. So A lot of cool stuff, but really we're here. Plant It Forward. They are doing such an incredible job in Houston, and so it'd be awesome for y'all to support them if it's just making donations or ordering produce from them. So we're wrapping it up. So Rachel, any last thoughts?
Just thank you so much for having us on, and I'd love to meet any of you at the farm tomorrow.
Heck yeah, I know I'll be out there. You had me at Light Bites. So, all right, everybody, this has been Home Show Garden Pros. We do have a radio show, 7 a.m. this Saturday. Always a lot of fun. We'll be taking your calls, answering your gardening questions, and just giving you as much great advice as we can. For Rachel, I'm Dany. Get out there and garden.